Well, joining me on the program right now to discuss this issue of amalgamation and whether Nigeria still officially exists is the Secretary General of the Movement of New Nigeria, Mr. Tony Nnadi, who is also a lawyer. Thank you very much, Mr. Nnadi, for coming on the program. Let me just ask you to restate your position. And I have to put it this way. Does Nigeria officially exist?
Nigeria, like Nigeria has come to an end. That's the way to put it very simply, on three counts. The first being that the background instrument that put us together in the first place, which is the amalgamation. I was surprised to hear some of my senior colleagues, Professors Sage and Oyebode, trying to argue that what happened in 1914 was not a treaty. We should all remember that many
yes, and there's been a lot of argument that what actually happened in 1914 was not a treaty in the actual sense of the word.
No, what happens in law is you take a whole package together to come to a conclusion on the matter. The British didn't get the territory overnight. The Treaty of Lagos was in 1861.
That's correct.
And then in bits and pieces they conquered, and they got treaties all around. They now started consolidating and merging them, as far it was in 1906 that they could put all of what they got, the oil rivers here, Lagos there, and they put it together as Southern Protectorate. And then it was in 1914 that they completed the process, because something thought there was something amalgamation happened overnight. It was a whole series of processes. They had to merge the legal system, the tax system, and all of that.
But that's the point. This treaties, I mean, you just said
at the end of the
there
day,
were treaties with various...
Yes, in 1914, they consolidated all of those things into one sheet to become, what we now call the amalgamation.
Is there a treaty? Is there anywhere? Is there a document that says this is the 1914 amalgamation treaty with Nigeria?
Yeah, if you go to read the proclamation, we have the documents, all of the documents that led to that point and even beyond, and in the coming days, it's going to be before the courts, because we're just going to take it to take it up as formally as it could be taken up. But that is on one layer. The British left in 1960 ostensibly, but we know they didn't leave, because all they did was to appoint agents to hold their interests, the ones who now say they are born to rule the rest of us. Because for Ahmadu Bello to declare to his lieutenants in 1960 that the new nation called Nigeria should be an estate of their great-grandfather Uthman Dan Fodio, and that on no account should power equation be allowed to change, and that the Middle Belt will be used as willing tools, that's minorities of the Middle Belt, and the South as a conquered territory. It was reported in Parrot newspaper of 12th October 1960. So what he was celebrating was the bequest of Southern Nigeria to Northern Nigeria. And we're still in that internal colonialism to date.
I have to ask you this. Is there a law that specifies the lifespan of a treaty?
Yeah, under international law. I don't know who taught some of our people the kind of jurisprudence they are preaching. Like the other day, Professor Ben Nwabeze was busy boasting on how our sovereignty now vests in government. He was busy boasting how he is drafting one constitution for a federation, whereas a federation is a union of constitutions. Go to even the list of dictionaries. Go and see the meaning of a federation. A federation is simply a union of constitutions. And Nigeria was a federation up to 1966, when the 5 constitutions that defined the union got toppled and wedged into one unitary constitution. And now that we're going to repair what went wrong, does it not follow that we must restore the constitutions that will federate? And our argument in the position we have taken, which may look like extremist, is that if we cannot restore those constitutions that were toppled in 1966, to still retain a union, then those who are choking here will be at liberty to exercise their right to self-determination. Because incidentally, the 1999, the constitution that holds Nigeria together today, which was made by decree 1999 of Absalom Abubakar, we've gone to court since 2007 to show that it's a fraud, because he claimed in the preamble that we the people, that's the signature behind the document.
I get your point, but
yes.
I still want us to go back to this issue of treaty.
Yes.
And I want you to react to this argument elsewhere, that I mean, if you look at the various treaties that the colonial masters signed with the various ethnic nationalities at the time, the kings and who governed the kingdoms at the time, that those treaties of friendship and protection, that in actual fact the only region, that the only place where the British signed a treaty that sort of gave independence to its people would be that signed with the Alaki of Egbaland, that recognized the independence of. But if you looked at the others, it's completely different. And that later on, when the British realized its mistake, it decided to correct it by using force.
Yes.
And do you now sign? It's also quite surprising that you would sign a treaty with a conquered people, so to speak.
So what we're saying is that the records are all too clear, just that our people are too lazy to go to dig them out. But we've taken the trouble over the last 2-3 decades to get to the root of each.
Because why I'm asking you this is, was there a consultation between the colonial masters then and the natives?
No, they impose things by force, just like we have today. So that's why we say it must end. That Nigeria that is kept together strictly by brute force must end. We either go to restore the autonomies that were taken away, or those who are choking will take their portion and leave the union. Unfortunately for Nigeria, the only instrument, the sole legal instrument by which the union is held together today, being the 1999 Constitution, is a fraud that cannot stand. And
I just want you to react to this. I want to read from what someone wrote. He said, the 1999 Constitution, although General Abdulsalami Abubakar's decree number 24 of 1999, and with its poor record of consultation, is Nigeria's ground norm, being grosso modo effective. I don't understand that. You are a lawyer. So, and this person goes on to say, I rely on Professor Hans Kelsen's postulation on the ground norm in his Pew theory of law, used for legal justification for extra constitutional events or revolution. This was applied in State versus whatever. You know, he went on to say, look, whether you like it or not, that constitution that you consider faulty is still the ground norm of this country.
Well, these are some of the prices we have to pay for the mediocrity that has taken the altar of Nigeria's citadels of learning, because whoever taught him that kind of jurisprudence, yes, he can quote Kelsen, but it's now a practical situation. We went to court to afford them because the Absalami that did the decree, unfortunately for them, because they were in a hurry to get away with their loot, Absalami narrated the story of how he came about the Constitution. It's still there printed, that he formed a committee called Constitutional Debate Coordinating Committee that went to the field and reported back to the PRC, and that they removed and added, and then they, signed it into law to be called the Constitution, to take effect at a certain date. So what we went to court to do was to juxtapose within provisions of their Constitution. We asked the court to put this story of the author together with the claim in the preamble that we, the people, have solemnly resolved to live like this. And if one is true, the other is false. So the kerosene does not arise here. It's just a plain matter of forgery, that X did something and claims it's Y. Unfortunately, since it is my land and my right and my asset that is detained and hijacked on account of that forgery, it can only collapse like the check that was not signed by the owner of the account who collapsed in a bank. This is the title document. This is the check by which Nigeria is cashing the value of 3 million barrels of crude oil every day. And the owners of the assets, whether it's the oil and gas of the eastern side or the port of Lagos or whatever it is that have been taken away from one side or the other, being shared in Abuja by the bunch of politicians who insist that our lives now belong to them. And we're saying either they come forward for us to rework the entire thing together. Good, I think Mr. President has opened the window, which they shut all this while.
Yeah, because
either they come forward, we do it under a roof, or it will happen on the streets.
And because you talked about that, because you said it at your press conference that the conference,
yes,
the national dialogue called by the president is an opportunity for the, for the people of Nigeria to sit down and discuss. What exactly, when you say it's an opportunity,
yes,
and of course you also made it clear that if we didn't take that opportunity, then the country might...
The matter would have been on the street by now. We've been working for many years. The matter, if you take a referendum on the subject of whether we want to be here or not today, more than 75%.
So how do you think this national dialogue now would be able to resolve all of these issues, especially when you consider the fact that, legally speaking, people have also said, and to some extent they are correct, the national dialogue is not even recognized, I mean, legally.
By who?
No,
sovereignty belongs to the people. It never leaves them. Even when the colonialists were here, it was only suppressed.
And some people say that sovereignty lies with the National Assembly and elected government of this country.
Bring them to your TV, so whether they are senior advocates or judges or professors of law, bring them to your studio so that we can disgrace them publicly.
Hasn't this sovereignty been handed over to the National Assembly, for instance? Because these are representatives of the people.
Let me tell you how it works. And that theory has been taken around the globe and nobody has been able to fault it to date. You know how a company is with its memorandum and articles of association between the owners of the company and the management they hire to run the company. The only group who can make the memo and articles are the owners of the company. They draw it up and hand it down to a management they hire.
But you don't expect the entire people of this company to gather.
That's what I'm telling you. That's what I'm telling you. The American Constitution is still standing because the 13 colonies that took on the British in a fight agreed to work as a union. And then they increased to the number they have now by accretion. People joining them as they went along. Nobody came to create the state of Texas away from or divide Tennessee into. It was those who saw how their union was working joining at various times. So what we're saying is that the matter of this between the people and the National Assembly, who has the right to make a constitution, just like opening a debate between the owners of a company, the shareholders, and the management of that company, that had found a way to go to tamper with the memo and articles of the company and now made it their own enterprise. That was what happened to us in 1966.
But even the president has said at the end of the exercise, the national dialogue, that whatever the outcome is will be handed over to the National Assembly to serve as an input now in its constitution.
No. The
president is on record to have said that.
Well,
he said
that so. He's one individual, just being first amongst equals, is president for the today, but that his presidency and the National Assembly noise does not take away 1 inch of our sovereignty. Our sovereignty, the Yoruba, will be a country of 55 million people if Nigeria were to collapse today. And if Soviet Union that was bigger than us could collapse, there's no reason why that Nigeria will not collapse, because what we're saying, we're talking about, we're insisting on a reconstruction. For the same reason,
is that what you would be expecting the national dialogue to discuss?
What the dialogue is about is what South Africa did in 1990, when the sitting government led by Frederick de Klerk acknowledged that the apartheid constitution of South Africa was no longer able to carry the society, and therefore that a discussion will have to be held to generate a new constitution that will accommodate all. The only difference between our situation and those of that of South Africa was that their own ordeal started in 1910, our own started in 1914. But the general principle of white is better than black is what we all entered into. There was external colonialism in South Africa up till 1910, when the ones who were doing it from outside had to dress away for those who were on ground to do what happened from 1910 to 1990, whereby a minority, a stranger element minority, was able to seize the lands.
Basically, what agenda would you be pushing at this national conference?
Exactly?
Is it the breakup of the country?
No, there are two possibilities. If we go back to the level of regional autonomy upon which Nigeria was founded, in which the Western region was like a country cooperating with other countries, Eastern region and Northern region. They each had their constitutions, such that Awolowo could do what he did, such that Emeagwara could do what he did.
So that's exactly what you'll be...
So we are saying that is one option if we agree today. But we must accept that Nigeria was not our making. We must accept that the instrument that holds it together now is a fraud that cannot be sustained. We must accept that we cannot operate outside the dictates of the United Nations on the subject of self-determination. Having accepted those three, we will then, for the sake of peace, so that anarchy doesn't overtake all of us, give a time frame within which we will have to go to agree on how to restore the autonomy to those who lost it to Nigeria that was decided over their head. The alternative to that would be for those who are choking to walk their way out of the union.
How do they do that?
We have been working since, we went to
Because, of course, you said yes. So that the ethnic nationalities will on their own go their ways. How
by the time we convened Pronaco, you have to remember.
Let's not forget that the ethnic nationalities you're talking about, yes, these are Nigerians. They are not people from another part of the country.
They were Yorubas first.
They are all represented in the present-day government.
Before they became Nigeria. Nigeria was an imposition on them. Are we arguing about that? No. Nigeria has not worked well for some of them, most of them. Are we agreeing about that? No. From my own part of the country, on this same question of how do we live together, 3.5 million people got killed by those who insist that they are born to rule forever. And we're talking about taking away all of what could have kept us going as societies, and then bunching 68 items into the constitution that we cannot touch. I can't generate electricity for myself.
Some people would say it is because of
let me land. Okay. We're saying that it is possible for us to restore the federalism we had, which was the basis of the Nigerian Union. If we can do that today, the alternative would be for everybody to go his way. And at the time we were calling Pronaco, we got 164 ethnic nationalities that sat for 1 year and a half, and we had a finished product from it that could have restored us to federalism on the basis that would be satisfactory to all. But since 2006 to now, those who think that we must be their slaves forever have been talking down on it, abusing us, that who are we to suggest something to the contrary, since we ought to just obey forever. And as a fallback from that time, this map did not develop overnight. If you listen to the American War College report on Nigeria, June 2013, they were reporting to their home government that it appears that four countries are emerging from Nigeria that have been rejected by a majority. Go and check that report again. So we are saying that we have a new situation here, quite apart from the stupidity and stubbornness of those who could not imagine we will resist this any day in the future. We have a new situation in which 12 states of the far north passed Sharia law in year 2000 almost simultaneously. As I speak with you, I do not see any distinction I can make between the action of those 12 state governments and the Boko Haram that came in later to insist on Sharia or nothing for the entire territory. So we are saying that...
That's your opinion.
No.
Because, I mean, those governments would tell you that...
No, they passed Sharia law for whatever reason. I can't function from Sokoto, I can't function from Kano, I can't function from Meduguri, but Sanusi can govern Central Bank sitting in Lagos. His younger brother can govern NNPC sitting in Port Harcourt. So what kind of arrangement is that? I'm not going to accept that. And we're saying whatever it will take to recover our part of the failed Nigerian experiment, because we're the experiment of foreigners.
Some people would say,
so this is the alternative.
Positions like
this is the alternative. This is the alternative to restoring our autonomy fully to our satisfaction.
Don't you think it is because of positions like yours that some people have misgivings about this? Let them
put an alternative. Let them put an alternative on the table. Let us go and look at it. If they think I'm going to continue to abide by the 1999 constitution, this apartheid constitution as basis of Nigeria, who created the 36 states that have made me minority in a place where I'm clearly majority? Where do the rest of the people live? Go from Calabar all the way to Gambia. And after the indigenous population in every center, you will see the second population being these same Igbo people who are all over the place. How come we are now in such a minority? Who created the 36 states? Who created the 704 local government areas? Who created all this? So, and look at the officers who did them. From Gawan of 1967, you came to Murtala Mohammed, you came to Bangida, you came to Abacha. Where were the officers from the rest of the country? If not that somebody is trying to maintain something somewhere. So today, we are not only outnumbered politically in the place of decision in Abuja. The monies that come 95% from this area is being shared on the basis of those manipulations. And somebody is telling me to be kept. Anything, whatever made Mandela and Walter Sisulu and Oliver Tambo and Governor Mbeki to insist that the apartheid constitution must be brought down. That is what is driving us today to bring down this constitution, and woe unto that person that will think that this will be the basis of even one more election in Nigeria, because we have already mobilized the ethnic nationalities. In case they do not know, they sit in Abuja, they are not connected to their people. Their people are not going to accept one more election under this apartheid constitution.
Good thing is that the ethnic nationalities, of course, will be represented at the national dialogue.
Let me tell you the basic, the minimum. The basis of representation, ethnic nationality. In the formations, they will federate. We are not going to build the house of Nigeria afresh from the roof like it's been done since 1914. What I mean by that is that it's not every little Isoko, Ichekiri, Ogoni that will carry their little bag and go and be lost in a crowd of almost 300 ethnic people in Abuja, if it were to be done that way. Whereas we are saying that, yes, it must be the ethnics, but there must be two layers. The logic of a federation is a union of constitutions. And we lost our way because, yes, at least two layers. We lost our way because we abandoned the 5 constitutions that defined the union in 1966. So now, if we are fixing it, the first task is to restore the constitutions that will later federate. And work has gone on even before government called its own. You saw when the Yoruba raised their flag and their anthem and their constitution the other time.
Right.
You saw the Lower Niger working together to bring out the constitution that will federate the 7 languages you find in the eastern side, the Robo, the Jaw, the Chekiri, the Igbo. We've been working on it even before the conference was called, and we're going to finish it and take it to referendum.
Unfortunately, because of time.
All right.
Because of time, but let me just ask you to say just very briefly now, because we're out of time.
Yes.
You were talking about the 2 layers of representation.
Yes.
Could you just tell us what are these 2 layers?
No, the 2 layers is that the conference in the first instance should be, in regional settings in which those who will be under one constitution, like that of Western region, will work out their things at home. The Afenifere already said so.
Okay, after the
in the eastern side,
you can have the national.
Yes, when they have come up with their constitutions, we can then come to form a union at the center, because they will be donating the little powers that the center will have, and they will be the ones financing by contribution.
Anyway, but that will
anything less than that
will be your position and the position of your group. That's
yes, it's already. We went to all the locations the presidential committee sat, and these are the things. I don't know what their report.
Your group cannot claim to speak for all Nigerians.
No, we're not speaking. We don't claim to speak for anybody, but the representations that were made in those locations, I don't know what the committee will report. We know that some games are going on, but those conditions are the minimum conditions under which anything will happen. If those things do not happen, the owners of those lands have a right to take back their land from Nigeria that has failed. But we're prepared, since the Mr. President has already called a conference, we're prepared to get everybody to come to see what the outcome will be before further steps are taken. But let nobody take it for granted that Nigeria will be there for them forever.
Mr. Tony Nnadi, Secretary General of Movement for Nigeria, New Nigeria, thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for your position.